CNN crew released from custody in Minneapolis. Coronavirus around the world. Coronavirus pandemic in the U.S. CNN correspondent Omar Jimenez and his crew have been released from police custody. CNN President Jeff Zucker spoke with the governor of Minnesota, Tim Walz, on Friday morning, following the arrest of CNN's team in Minneapolis. Walz said he deeply apologizes for what happened and is working to have the CNN team released immediately. Walz described the arrests as unacceptable, said CNN's team clearly has the right to be there, and said he wants the media to be in Minnesota to cover the protests. A CNN crew has been taken to custody amid protests in Minneapolis early on Friday morning. Shortly after his crew captured the arrest on camera, the police officers moved towards Jimenez and his crew, asking them to move. Jimenez told the officers he and his 3 colleagues were part of the same CNN crew and calmly identified himself with his CNN identification card. Shortly after that, CNN photojournalist Leonel Mendez, who was with Jimenez, said he and the rest of the crew were also being arrested. The camera then showed Jimenez's producer Bill Carcos being handcuffed, taken into custody. Shortly after that, the camera, which was still rolling, was taken away from the crew. CNN has criticized the arrest of one of its teams on the ground in Minneapolis in a tweet this morning, and called for their release. CNN journalist Omar Jimenez has been taken into police custody during a live broadcast at the site of the protests in Minneapolis, after clearly identifying himself to officers. The CNN camera was also taken into custody and continued to record as the crew was handcuffed, with police seemingly unaware that the camera was still on. Watch the video here. Dramatic scenes have unfolded in Minneapolis after the police arrived on the scene and clashed with protesters. Police were seen shoving at least one person, while protesters responded by throwing projectiles at the officers as others fled the site. Police and fire engines have arrived at the epicenter of the protests in Minneapolis, where a number of buildings have been burning. A large number of protesters are still out early this morning in Minneapolis and a number of buildings are on fire. Hundreds of people are still protesting near the Minneapolis Police Building in the 3rd Precinct. One of the burning structures that has now been destroyed by the fire was an event space with multiple restaurants about a block away from the police station.